Okay, now on to less exciting but more important business. Yeah, the Rules Committee has done a lot of stuff lately. So one of the jobs of the Rules Committee is if there are groups out there that get together and decide they want to form another caucus, an affiliated caucus organization, part of that process is they put together some governing documents, they put together kind of a plan, and they come to the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee reviews their application to determine, have they met what's in the Constitution and the requirements for a caucus. The Rules Committee at their meeting in January reviewed an application from a group proposing to be a secular Democrats caucus. I believe we have a representative from them. If you want to come up, and if it's okay with everybody, I'll ask him to come up and kind of talk a little bit about their group.
Thank you. I am Joseph Couch, chair of Nebraska Secular Democrats. I'll be brief. I'll just go over some demographic information for you about why this is important, and then go a little bit more into why this is a little more personally important for me. So Nebraska Secular Democrats, our mission statement is essentially we're going to engage secular voters, encourage atheists and agnostics to run for office, and promote secular values. What many of you may not know is that religiously unaffiliated Americans, that's atheists, agnostics, or anyone else just not claiming a religious title, make up roughly 30% of this country. That's probably a lot more than many of you thought. So right now we're one of the least represented groups in this country with, I think we have one congressperson who just doesn't have a religious label. So that's less than 1% representation in our federal government, but 30% of our people. This is important, especially as we address the coming decades. Each generation is less and less religious. When you look at people under 40, I believe the number of those who are non-religious are, I want to say 42% from a 2016 poll. And among those, to break it down by party, 33% of them are Democrats, 11% are Republicans, and 48% are independents. When I was organizing for this caucus over the last year, one of the biggest barriers was not the label secular, was not the label atheist, which I proudly wear on my chest. You probably saw me over the last year. It was actually Democrat. I came in contact with a lot of people who were like, oh man, finally, I can have a voice in the political process, but I can't call myself a Democrat because they don't believe what I believe. And you see that in the last many decades. As long as I've been alive, every major politician ends every speech, God bless America. And the way atheists may have a caustic feeling in your mouth, as it sometimes still does for me, whenever I hear that, it feels caustic for me because I've never felt represented that way. However, in my conversations with them, I have convinced them that the Democratic Party is the big tent party. They are willing to bring us involved. We just have to come and speak up. So along those lines, I know in December, 4 of us made the trek out to Ord, and one of them was elected to this body right here. That's Thomas Gray right here, the chair of our action committee. So I'm very proud to be bringing people to this party. Once we're approved, we're just going to see more and more growth. And this is so important because while we have a lot of independents, I believe that's the biggest reason we are voting under our weight. We have 30% of the country, and that's grown from, I want to say it was at like 5% in 2000. So it's exponential growth over the last 2 decades. But our voting, our percentage of the voting population has not seen the same growth. I believe we've been pretty steady at like 10% of the population over the last decade, which is some growth since the 2000s and the 90s. And sort of to finish a little bit more personally for me, Megan Stock was talking about moving to Lincoln and finding her people. And that really resonated with me because being a young atheist growing up, there aren't really many people that you can identify with around, especially in very religious communities around our state. So like going through college, I was mostly walking through campus with headphones in my ears listening to atheist podcasts because that is the only community we have. I know the LGBTQ folk in the room, myself included, know the struggle of coming out. A lot of families aren't very supportive, and I have friends who must remain closeted atheists, otherwise their families would cut them off financially, kick them out on the streets. And I realize some of you may not have known that that is an issue for my community, so that is why I'm bringing it to you. I just thank you for your support in our caucus, and I'm so excited to get to work to elect more Democrats.
Thank you, Joseph. Okay. As the screen notes, how the process works under the bylaws is that the Rules Committee reviews the application and then makes a recommendation to the State Central Committee. The committee did recommend that the Central Committee approve the application. Is there a motion to approve the proposed Secular Democrats affiliated caucus organization?
So moved. Doc Moore, 47.
Okay.
So moved.
Doc Moore, is there a second?
Second. Bob Parker, legislative history.
Is there any discussion? Really, Edison?
Sorry, Trevor. Hi, my name's Edison McDonald. I'm the chair for the Interfaith Caucus, as it is currently. And I'd like to tell you a story about a party leader we have here, Ellen Moore, who was chair of the Catholic Caucus, and went and said that we'd like to, go and expand beyond just including Catholics, because they had Presbyterians like myself, Methodists, UCC, people who are agnostic and kind of somewhere in between, not quite sure what they believed in. And Ellen went and took the vital leadership to go and say, it's important that we change from the Catholic caucus to be a more open and welcoming caucus and instead be the Interfaith Caucus. So we've gone and we've expanded, and we're still kind of going through that transition. One of the things I would like to see, the way I think this should move forward is, and we've talked about this amongst our executive team and the Interfaith Caucus briefly, we'd like to go and move to becoming the Interfaith and Values Caucus. This is something, that I've seen a lot in my ecumenical work in other communities, and I think that it's important to go and have us really go and stand together strong. And I'm very excited that they're coming to the table. I'd like to go and expand this. I think that this is, it's great to have them come into the organization. But I think that together we can go and really offer up something better. With that also, my other concern is, as we always talk about the concerns over the growing numbers of caucuses and ACO organizations. What I'd like to go and set up instead is more a model where we have a table. So, for us, that would include, and in our strategic plan, we have included representatives from Methodists, Presbyterians, Buddhists, Jewish community, and from the secular community. So that's where I'd like to go, and instead I'd like to see this referred to the newly created table or organization, committee on kind of big strategic stuff in the party that we were talking about earlier. Thank you.
Oh, there's already a pending motion. So.
Okay.
Were you commenting, or do you intend to make a motion?
I guess, Trevor, a question for you. Would it be in order to go and refer it to a committee that is not formally created yet?
No, because the committee doesn't exist.
Okay,
special,
gotcha.
the special committee on party structure that Jane discussed has not been
Okay.
formed because it's Jane's
Okay.
intention to form it at the next central committee meeting.
In that case, then I'd like to move to table this until that committee has been
You
created.
can't make a motion after already speaking. You have to come back a separate time to make a motion. That's the intention.
So Edison, you were in opposition of them?
Yes.
Okay, so, I don't know where the
Your
young
name
man.
and LD, please.
Precious McKesson, LD 13. I just want to say thank you, because I did not know when you came in today, what your caucus was until I read about it. We say that we're supposed to welcome anyone. Anyone. So by telling him and their group that we're not accepting them, that is not making us true Democrats. We cannot, regardless, religion, creed, anything, we cannot tell them that they are not able to be a part of the Democratic Party. And I take it very, as a person, when I come here, remember, when I come to these meetings, it's not many people that look like me. So when there's someone that's different than me, and I'm going to stand up every single time, so you might as well just get ready and know you're going to see me every single time. So I'm in full support, and I hope that everyone else in this line, I mean, we're never going to agree. We're not all supposed to agree together, but we at least need to come to a common ground. But I'm very supportive, and I welcome you with open arms to our group. So.
Am I next?
Sorry, go ahead, Beck.
Pago Day, Lippert LD 14, and I am not here to support or oppose. I just believe, I agree what Precious said. We are all in this together, and frankly, I would like to see the elimination of all caucuses that differentiate us one from another, and rather see that we have issue caucuses, and I'll talk more with Jane about that. We don't need to be divided. We need to be all together.
Bob.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to pull this up.
Your name and LD, please, Bob.
I'm sorry. I'm Bob Parker, and my legislative district is 42. And I am support of a secular caucus. And thank you very much for those beautiful words, Precious. I mean, that touches my heart, and I love it. The thing is that I appreciate the gesture of, you know, the faith caucus. I so appreciate the gesture. The reality of it is, though, it doesn't represent us, no matter how much you try. But I appreciate the gesture, and it's not, and I just don't think that we can try to force something to, we have issues, specific issues that we need to represent, and we need to be able to do it our own way. And we have a lot of people to bring into this party because they don't have representation anywhere else. And that's a lot of reasons why we see different caucuses come up. The Latino caucus, the Black caucus, the Interfaith caucus, because that's showing people out there that they have representation within the Democratic Party. What Joseph said, and it's very true, there are people that are not going to either party because there is no representation to atheists or agnostics. And I'll tell you, this is where we want our home. This is where we want to be. We want to be able to, have representation here. And I'll tell you, Joe and the other people that have been working really hard to get this caucus going, where they have been doing an excellent job, and I'm proud of them. And I just want people to understand that this is not a strife against them, because we want to, you know, be able to have that representation. Thank you.
Thanks. My name's Tom Gray. I'm LD 49 alternate rep. I attended the Interfaith Caucus at the meeting in December. And as an atheist, I'd like to say that I heard nothing at that Interfaith Caucus that I disagreed with. Every one of the issues that they brought up and they discussed were things that I agreed with. So if it's just a question of issues, I'm fully with everybody in the party. However, I want to point out that when I growing up, my family voted Republican. I voted Republican. I considered myself a Republican. The Republicans have very clearly shown that I do not belong in their party. It is my hope that the Democratic Party is a big enough tent that my way of looking at the world can be accepted and maybe understood. While I and the religious agree on very many of our conclusions, we get at it from a different perspective, and I think that perspective matters. We both agree that people have rights, that people need to be respected, that our environment needs to be taken care of. How we arrive at that conclusion is different, and there are a growing number of people that see the world the way I see the world. And I think that if this political party wants to grow and succeed in the future, we need to speak to that and include it. And one final point, I am not against religion. I grew up in the Methodist faith. My mother's still very involved in that. Where I have concerns with religion are the same places that many of you have concerns with religion. It's dominionist outlook, the idea that religion must have control over the government and the economy and the entertainment industry. Just take a look at it, it's a scary thing. Also, the Christian identity movement and white supremacism is using Christianity to back things that are very un-American. And that's just looking at Christians. And Christianity is not the only religion out there. So, thanks for your time.
Real quick, I've been asked to note encourage folks to keep their remarks brief. We only have the room for so long. So, next speaker. Go. Next speaker, please.
Gina Frank, LD29. I would like to call the question.
Okay.
Second.
There's been a motion. Okay, that's been moved and seconded to call the question. All those in favor of ceasing debate, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, the question has been called. We will now move into a vote on the pending motion, which is to approve the proposed Secular Democrats caucus. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. The next item is, so for those of you who have been on the